Yuuya wears his armor to enter the other world. Just as he opens the door, he recalls Owen telling him that the area in which he resides is known as the darkest regions, and it is said to be the most dangerous area. With all those monsters Yuuya defeats so easily, if they were to appear within a large city in a pack, they could destroy the entire city. Yuuya wonders about the sage, and how he was living in such a dangerous place. After making his way into the forest and defeating a few monsters, he calls it a day, though he is slightly disappointed that he didn't come across any formidable foes deep inside the forest. While returning home, his attention is drawn by a little squeal. He rushes to the sound source, and finds a level 600 king orc beating a little pup. Yuuya goes stealth mode while observing the situation. He feels sorry for the little creature, but since he knows the power gap between him and the king orc, he decides to go back home. When the pup continues to cry out loud, his conscience stops him from taking another step. Yuuya then thinks on what his grandfather would do in this situation, and then he gathers his courage and summons his spear. He launches it towards the orc to draw its attention. After getting some adrenaline rush while holding a sword in his hand, he finds that the spear was more than enough to finish the fight before it even started. Shocked from defeating a monster far stronger than him, he remembers pulling off a similar feat against a high-level bloody ogre, when he was just at level 1, then he wonders how the sage was able to make a weapon like that. Hearing a cute growling sound as he turns around, he is met by the hostile pup, who thinks Yuuya is an enemy. Yuuya offered a healing potion to the damaged animal, but it refuses to let its guard down until it passes out due to its injuries. Yuuya revives the pup back to full health with the healing potion. The animal wakes up and takes an instant liking to Yuuya, and then Yuuya learns that the pup is an orphan black Finra, which has significant power and high intelligence with the ability to understand human speech. Yuuya offers to adopt the Finra and takes it to his home to be safe. He discovers that he has a tame skill that allows him to take monsters as companions. Now that they are a unit, he settles on the name Knight for the Black Fenrir, which seems to get it excited. The two make their way back to the cabin, where they analyze the items obtained from defeating the King Orc. One of the items extracted from it was a hairbrush, said to be so rare that it is acquired only once every few thousand years. This hairbrush can nourish the hair and revive bald and thinning hair. This item is sold at an extremely high prices to nobles, who are facing hair issues. Yuuya takes advantage of its qualities, and uses it to brush his new pet. While brushing his pet, he checks his own stats, but surprisingly, his stats are the same with no increase, despite him defeating a high-level monster. He leaves the matter as it is, and declares that he will figure out how leveling up works later. He takes Knight with him to the real world, and leave it in the house before making his way to school. Yuuya informs his friends of his new pet, and asks if there is a pet shop nearby. Kaeta was curious to know how his dog looks like, and asks if he has a photo, but Yuuya tells her that he does not even have a smartphone, which is surprising for them. They tell him that there is one pet shop that is not far from the school. Kaeta volunteers to take him there, and she helps him selecting a few items. Yuuya later returns home. He shows Knight the new collar that he handpicked with Kaeta for him. Yuuya takes him out for a walk during the beautiful sunset in the park. All the ladies around got charmed with Yuuya's charming rays along his cute black puppy. Yuuya later bumps into Kaori, who is also out for a walk. He introduces Knight to her, and the two seem to be fond of each other. As she pets the Finner, everyone stops in their track to admire the scene of a cute girl petting a cute puppy who belongs to a handsome guy. Kaori wants to know what breed Knight is, but Yuuya simply tells her that he has no idea. Then someone calls out to Yuuya, and it is Mio the model. He introduces the two ladies to each other, and Kaori seems to be a little bit jealous from the presence of Mio. After some chatting, Mio expresses her hopes to bump into Yuuya again whenever she is out on a walk, and then she leaves. Kaori is curious, so she asks Yuuya if he and Mio are dating, but he denies it and tells her that they only work together for that photo shoot. Also, Yuuya feels like he is not good enough for Mio to be dating her. Kaori strongly disagrees, and he is surprised by her reaction. Suddenly, a scream from a lady nearby interrupts them, as a thief has snatched her purse. Yuuya commands Knight to chase him and bring the man alive. Yuuya takes Kaori by her hand to check up on the old lady. Then Knight drags the criminal on the ground back to Yuuya, despite his small body. Yuuya asks from Kaori to call the police, then after realizing that he will be arrested, the thief breaks free from Knight's hold, ripping his jacket and dashing with a knife towards Kaori. Yuuya shows how a Sigma he is by stopping the attack with one hand, while proceeding in making pizza dough out of the man and apprehending him. The police arrive and take the thief into custody. Yuuya and Knight later make their way into the woods, with the intention of conquering a certain area, so that they can proceed further into the deepest parts of the forest. They work as a team as they first deal with a jack goblin before taking out a bear monster. Then another king orc appears from the darkness, and Yuuya lets Knight take his revenge from the king orc in spectacular fashion, followed by a howling cry of victory. The duo continue to make their way deeper into the forest, and suddenly they come across a deer with 2 different horns, that has a power level of 630, while possessing an absurd amount of magical power. Despite Yuuya is in stealth mode, the deer can sense his presence. Now that a surprise attack is not possible, Yuuya reveals himself and goes on the offensive with Knight. Then the deer charges at them after giving his war cry. They evade its attack, and Yuuya lets Knight go for an opening, but the deer blocks it with a red horn. The monster repels him with a fiery blast, and then follows up with an incredible magical beam attack. Yuuya falls back to analyze the situation, and concludes that he and Knight will have to divide up their roles, to have a chance in defeating this dual-wielding magic deer. Yuuya commands Knight to create an opening for him to land the final blow, and Knight goes forth to execute the plan, while avoiding the large-scale attack from the deer. Knight succeeds in injuring the deer, giving Yuuya the opening that he wished to finish the deer off. Yuuya deducted that as they venture further and further into the forest, they will need to be more flexible with their tactics. He looks for the dropped items from defeating the deer, and an object in particular catches his attention. He analyzes it, and finds that it's a fully functioning hot bath, that can be drawn out at any time. Yuuya and Knight later go back to the house, to enjoy a Japanese-style hot bath after a day of hard work. They enter the woods the next day, and they face a porcupine-looking like monster, with fast and agile movements. It gives them a hard time, but Yuuya sees that its movements have become sloppy, so he baits it to crash into a rock before ending it in a tag-team effort with Knight. He takes a break nearby, and then checks his stats to find that it has increased, plus he gained many skills too. Yuuya is surprised to see that his status increased along Knight's stats. Before they leave the area, the rock in front of them crumbles, to reveal a tunnel, which they take the pleasure of exploring. Yuuya uses life sensor, which shows no sign of life within the area. Their path is guided by a spontaneous combustion of fire torches, which leads them to an opening. Knight runs off to explore first, and when Yuuya pulls closer he is met with a corpse. But before he can investigate, Knight draws his attention to a book titled The Book of the Sage. He opens it and gasps in shock after seeing its content. Elsewhere in a city, 2 people in cloaks interact, as one of them wants the other to take on a job of eliminating a particular somebody. And that's the end of the video. Please tell me your opinion, and like the video. Take care, and stay tuned for the next episode.